I want to start with a very personal story, right? It was about 5 years ago. I was 70 pounds heavier, and I could barely bend down to do my shoelaces. And so I had a health scare, and I went to the doctor. And that's the picture of what doctor and their office gave me. It was a green paper and a red paper, and they told me that there is some issue with your gut that we can't necessarily discern what it is. So we're going to give you these 2 sheets. We're going to put you on a low FODMAP diet, and we want you to go home and try this. We came home. I looked at that, and then they told me you should try and eat high fiber food. The flip side of that is everything that was high fiber was on the red side of the chart, like apples and pears was on the red side of the chart. So I was left with these 2 sheets. Then I add to that I'm a vegetarian. I have to supposed to be on high fiber diet. We're an Indian family, so then there is whole issue of translating this into Indian food. And then I was going over my weight loss, and by the way, here was the kicker. They said, don't switch over to a new diet very rapidly. You need to gradually switch over. And at this point, I left. And look, I know enough to Google, I know enough to do apps, and I know enough to do things, but I was just left completely perplexed on what should I really be eating. And what started was like a 2-year painful journey, and the one good out of it is I'm 60 pounds lighter, I exercise more. There's a lot of good things came out of it, but the journey gave me a stark realization that this is a nightmare that a lot of people go through on a daily basis, right? Fast forward, I had the opportunity to work on what we believe is a truly disruptive future for the food called Meal Hero, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And before I launch into Meal Hero, I'm going to go to a slightly lighter side. And one of the things that we increasingly noticed is consumers are seeking personalized experiences. And there are 2 anecdotes that kind of bring this to life. About 10 years ago, me and my colleague were at a Starbucks at Washington, D.C., and we were very regulars. I used to do consulting, so we were very regulars to the Starbucks. And his order was, and I still remember it, it was half cup quad shot venti cappuccino with an extra shot of something, 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 right? And I only drank latte. He was more picture perfect than I, so for some reason, all the college kids behind the counter remembered his order than me. It was the ugly friend syndrome. But besides the point, right, I think there was something fascinating going on in that moment. This gentleman who I was with had figured out how to personalize his coffee to his taste, right? And myself, from that journey to today, I have figured out what I need to drink to stay healthy. So we all have our way of beginning to personalize. And about a week and a half ago, I was taking my son to library, and I told him, why do we need to lug around our laptop? He's got his own laptop, and we've created his own username and password and stuff like that. And I said, you can just use the library computer. And his response to me was, Daddy, I had to go there, log in, and spend all this time trying to get all my links on Chrome browser showing up. And by the way, he's 6 years old. So I looked at it and I said, this brought the entire thing whole cycle, right? I'm talking about 10 years ago when it was all about figuring out what your taste profile was. Then I also shared with you a story of what my health profile was and how I had to personalize for the sake of it. And then you've got my 6-year-old. For him, personalization is done. It's native, right? So there are many facets to that personalization, as I shared. There's convenience aspect of it. There's lifestyle aspect of it, likes, dislikes, health, wellness, budget. There's just a whole slew of it. And so when we started thinking about this in terms of how it impacts our consumers or the people that we serve for on every day, we started with meal planners. And the reason why we started with meal planners is they usually seem to care for what the family begins to eat. And this is a typical journey of what happens on a Saturday or a Sunday in every homes that cook at home, right? So first and foremost, we create a meal plan. Then we begin to personalize for other things, right? Like your ethnicity, your things that you're going to do. You may have a guest at home and their preferences, what your kid likes or doesn't like. Then you check your pantry, and let's all be honest, right? Our pantries are really not optimized for efficiency. They're optimized for storage. You just dump things in there, and seldom we know what's in the pantry. Then you collect coupons, check your budget, and then you shop at 1+ stores. And that's how I feel like, because I own the responsibility of shopping in the stores, and so I get to pick up avocados in one place, tomatoes in one place, and then other shelf stable in a different place. That's as per my orders from my wife. So it's basically how people shop. And then after you do all that, you manage for your mood, your lifestyle. There's just so many things that go into it. Then you cook and clean, and you get to eat. When you add that entire cycle, people spend approximately 500 hours per year just doing this. And it occurs once or twice a week, and it is still a very unfulfilling activity because it is multidimensional. It is so multidimensional that our minds cannot just necessarily calculate all that. So we learned a few things. That home chefs and millennial moms are our primary audience. People use 2+ apps. But yet, unfulfilling prophecy. People end up cooking go-to meals, the same things, every once or twice, and they have extreme aversion. When you build a system, they have extreme aversion to any changes, to like handing off to a new system or handing off to a new platform. They have extreme aversion to all that. And fundamentally, personalized meal planning with seamless connection to commerce became the unlock for us. That's what we learned. With that being said, we came up with the concept of Meal Hero, and our vision is to be the best digitally powered meal planning solution. And in a way, you guys are going to be some of the first previewers of our meal planning solution. It's been in the market. We've been doing more of a stealth test. You can download this in the App Store now. The concept is very simple. Can people go in and personalize their preferences, what they like, dislike, in a more Tinder-esque fashion, as you see there? And then can we come up with a meal plan that is so targeted to them that they don't have to do anything more? And once they've come up with the meal plan, can we just make sure it is shopped at their favorite store? And to build something like this, right, there are lots of apps in the store, but to build something like this, we had to rely on food intelligence. And so what's food intelligence? Food intelligence is our 3-year journey of research and bringing together artificial intelligence and food science. So the way we think about it is you brought together the data science and the food science to build this sophisticated system. It's got its intelligence from 11 million recipes, 700,000 plus grocery items, and a lot other details around cooking semantics. And we've applied natural language processing and other sophisticated algorithms to simply break down everything that somebody would need in their plan. So things like, how much does it take to cook something at home? How is the food image appealing or not? Because guess what? We all live in an Instagram generation where you post food on Instagram before you actually pray. So there's just a whole slew of things that we have built. The system can even understand substitutions. It can understand ingredient recommendations. It can understand recipe similarities. And so this sophisticated journey of 3 years that just happened in the back end needed to be brought to forefront, and we're doing that with Meal Hero. Again, you guys are probably some of the first to preview this, and you should be able to download this in the App Store. But what does being a personal meal planning mean, right? We started with convenience and preferences as the first choice, but we have full view to go into other areas like lifestyle. I'm going to run a triathlon. What do I need to eat and how do I train myself? All the way to health, right? I have a specific a disease state, and how am I going to manage that? Why now, right? We truly believe that technology, this is how technology disrupts, and we're at an exciting time, right? Technology starts by disaggregating the value chain. What I mean by that is, if you take a look at the cable industry, or if you take a look at the newspaper industry, right, it was all designed around a retail-centric value chain, right? How fast I can get a food on the shelf, does it fit the shelf, is it colorful enough to attract people, so on and so forth. But now, we actually can directly reach the consumers. Then, that leads to emergence of niche brands, right? Brands that are hyper-focused on a specific need state for a consumer. Then you begin to see newer franchises and commoditization of all of these food products begin to happen. And it's all driven by trends for data and aggregation. And last but not the least comes personalization of food. It all starts and happening in some sequence, but the most important thing is one thing begins to feed the other, and other things begin to layer up on top of it, like logistics, IoT, ad tech, machine learning, smart kitchen. You take a specific tech industry jargon or a tech that goes after it, it all begins to then attack this problem of how to simplify the entire food ecosystem. We believe that we're truly at that pivotal moment where all of these are coming together and that flywheel is beginning to get created. And you can see this in the rapid advances in the food ecosystem, right? Everything from, and I think the entire value chain to some extent is here, from ag all the way through food. We're here. We also had folks speak about consumer preferences before. And we have health here. And then you can begin to see science, lifestyle, diets, tech. But out of all this also comes a lot of noise on what is good, what is bad, is this good? I mean, I ride the elevator to 80 floors every single day, and the little thing on top, one day I see caffeine is good for you, the other day I see caffeine is bad for you, one day I see wine is going to help you live longer, the other day I see wine is going to kill you faster. So there's just a lot of noise around it. But if you take all of that noises out, what is most exciting is there is a rapid advance in the food ecosystem happening. But with that advance, this is how we sometimes feel. This was my feeling when I went to the doctor, and the doctor gave me a bunch of sheets and said, go figure it out. And this is probably my wife's feeling and my feeling when my son dishes out at a dish we made and he gives it a thumbs down after we have a meal, right? So from time to time, our feelings, we all need a hero, and for us, we look forward to being your meal hero, actually. That's really that we are after, and we believe that this is the true disruption of food that brings together the entire ecosystem, but most importantly, personalizes it for every consumer that's out there. Thank you.